He might be okay.
Yes! Groundhog Day!
Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Talk. I'm John and I'm going to be joined shortly by Matt, and today we're here to talk about the 1993 Bill Murray starring, Harold Ramis directed classic film Groundhog Day. And we're also here to talk about its brand new 4K STEELBOOK that just came out from Sony Pictures. But before we dive into all that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, some tech and game reviews, we try and do that all here on the channel, and nothing would help us out more than by you liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So February 12th, 1993, Harold Ramis gave us the gift of Groundhog Day, and this is my favorite Bill Murray movie of all time, and it's just flat out one of my favorite films of all time. This is a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 film for me. I truly just love this movie. I watch it every single winter, not necessarily around Groundhog Day, but every single winter when the snow's on the ground and it's starting to get cold outside, I always like to pop in Groundhog Day.
So I know John has spoken very highly of this movie. I know this is one of his favorite Bill Murray movies. And, you know, I've seen this movie before as a kid. I don't know if I've ever seen it in its entirety. I know my mom liked it a lot. I really don't remember much of this movie at all. So this was, I know, it's not technically a first-time watch, but it basically was for me because I didn't really remember anything. And I had a great time. I thought it was a fun movie. You know, I thought it was a tad bit long. I would have shaved maybe 10 to 15 minutes off of this somewhere, you know, but other than that, I really did enjoy the movie. I had a good time watching it. It's definitely going to go into the rotation going forward. This is a good February movie, you know, Groundhog Day. And, you know, it was a real treat to see Harold Ramis on the screen again, you know. I can't really think of too many movies aside from Ghostbusters that I've really seen him on the screen like that, and I was like, oh shit, it's Harold Ramis, it's Egon. I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. It was a real treat to see him there. Also, I kept getting the idea, I know this came out way before it, but it kind of reminded me of 50 First Dates a little bit, you know, but 50 First Dates was kind of like the opposite. I could just imagine the storyboard pitch in the room when they did 50 First Dates. Alright, so it's Groundhog's Day, but the other way around, and it's a girl. So maybe that was the idea for it, maybe that movie was lightly based on this, but you know, they're different movies. I enjoy that movie as well. Drew Barrymore, Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider, awesome movie. But I feel like it might have been inspired by Groundhog Day.
And that's just because it's a real feel-good movie, and it plays with a lot of movie tropes that I truly love. This is where the Groundhog Day trope at least got famous. So Bill Murray plays Phil Connors, a weatherman out of Pittsburgh who has to every single year. He heads over to Puxatawney, Pennsylvania to watch Puxatawney Phil come out and see if he sees a shadow, and we'll find out if there's another 6 weeks of winter. But Phil Connors is a bit of a bitter man. He's an angry man. He's not happy with his place at the news station. He sees himself as bigger than that. He's kind of a dick. He's an egotistical maniac. You know, that's why you cast Bill Murray. It's very similar to his arc in Scrooge, where he starts out as this mean, angry person that many people don't like, but he sees himself as bigger than all them. He likes to lord his power or his status over people. He does the same thing in Scrooge and he does the same thing here. But after a blizzard that he predicted snows them in Puxatawney, Pennsylvania, he's forced to spend the night there. But the problem is when he wakes up the next day, it's Groundhog Day again. And he realizes pretty fast about by day 3, he's stuck in a time loop with no way out. And he's got to figure this out for himself. This movie is pretty much a perfect film because it really has a great arc telling the story of a grumpy man who ends up finding himself and finding about what the true meaning of life really is, and he has to learn it in the place he hates the most, and that's in Puxatawney, Pennsylvania, with some great characters that live in this town. Mainly one of my favorites is Needle-Nosed Ned.
Ned! Ryerson!
Played by Stephen Toledowski, who I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that last name right. I heard he has an amazing podcast that I've never checked out. He's just a great character actor. But, you know, you see every single day all the characters that live in this town, all the people that live in this town, and just how Phil starts out just despising them, just the fact that they're just in his presence. You know, at the news station, the people who come with him are Chris Elliott and Andy McDowell. And he's not a fan of Andy McDowell or Chris Elliott either, even though Andy McDowell is a real sweetheart. And Andy McDowell is an actress that I've never really been a huge fan of, but she's perfectly cast in this film. And her and Bill Murray have some great on-screen chemistry. And if you've ever heard the behind-the-scenes stuff about this film, about how Harold Ramis and Bill Murray, this is really what ended their friendship, and they didn't speak until Harold Ramis was like on his deathbed. Because Bill Murray at this time was a lot like how Phil Connor starts out in this movie. He was just an angry man. I believe they said he was going through a divorce. He was just really hard to work with. Apparently this is the first time that Harold Ramis and Bill Murray really almost came to blows on set. They couldn't agree on anything, and you know, it's really sad because they made such a phenomenal movie out of that, and that just should really show you that it just takes a lot to make a movie like this. And this movie, like I said, is just so warm-hearted. You know, just seeing how Phil's arc starts and how he has to really learn that the only way to really end this loop, you know, he starts out where he's just trying to do what's best for him. He's just that selfish person through and through. So in the beginning, even with Andie MacDowell, all he's really trying to do is get laid. He doesn't care about her. So like, he's just trying to manipulate her. He's learning all this stuff about Andie MacDowell's character, like she doesn't like white chocolate, she doesn't like fudge. You know, he learns about the drink that she likes. He learns all this stuff not because he cares about her, but because he wants to get her in the bed. So that's all he's really, that in the beginning, that's all that's really on his mind. And then he gets really depressed. And then after he comes out of that depression and he tries to kill himself multiple times, he starts to learn all this stuff. He starts to learn how to ice sculpt, learns how to play the piano. He just learns all these skills that are actually very helpful that a normal person could never learn in one lifetime. He learns multiple skills because he has, well, the end of time. And then even after all that, he finally starts to come to the realization, maybe I should be a nice person. You just see him helping out all of the people in town. Every day he remembers that he has to catch this kid that's going to fall out of a tree. And it's just a real warm-hearted story till we eventually make our way to the end when finally he breaks the loop, because he finally has that perfect day where he doesn't just care about himself. He cares about everybody in town. He tells even Andie MacDowell, like, he's like, I got some errands to run. His errands are just taking care of people through the town. And then eventually they all end up at this ball at the end of the night, the Groundhog Day ball, and we get to see a young Michael Shannon get some WrestleMania tickets.
WrestleMania! No way!
Then Andie MacDowell and him finally connect in a real loving manner. They actually show you that, you know what, he's not even trying to get laid. He just wants to be with Andie MacDowell. He finally cares about her. He's finally doing something extremely unselfish. The whole day was an entire unselfish day where he didn't even think about himself. He thought about everybody else but himself, and that's what finally breaks that time loop. And then after all that time, you get yourself a perfect movie. And this movie really is just an amazing, incredible film. If you haven't checked out Groundhog Day, I'm probably selling short how good this movie is. It'll make you feel good, and it's really one of those movies that feels like winter. They capture that winter feeling. And like I said, I'm a big Bill Murray fan, and I still think that this is his best role. And I love almost all the roles he did with Wes Anderson, with Rushmore. I obviously love Ghostbusters, I love Stripes, I love all those movies, but Bill Murray was never more perfectly cast than he was here in Groundhog Day. He really has to run the gamut of all of his acting. You get that sarcastic Bill Murray that I just truly love, that I base a lot of my own sense of humor off of, and you get that emotional Bill Murray where we can see, like, you know what, this guy does have that heart. He's not a Grinch, you know, deep down he wants to be a good person, but he's probably a broken man. He's a bitter man, and I can completely relate to that. This is just a phenomenal acting performance. I know Matt said that he thinks that this is probably his best acting performance, but not his best film. I disagree. I think that this is by far Bill Murray's best film. I think this is a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 film. And this film was Harold Ramis' masterpiece. So if you haven't checked out Groundhog Day yet, I can highly recommend it. And now Matt's going to give you his thoughts on the 4K Blu-ray.
So if you are familiar with 4K discs, you would know that Sony, they're one of the best studios out there aside from like boutique labels. And I think Sony really knocked it out of the park with this one. Visually, I thought this was pretty stunning. You know, it's not a film that was shot yesterday like Top Gun Maverick or like Black Adam or something like these brand new reference quality discs that are coming out. But this is also a perfect example of a near perfect 4K disc, because I think visually this was absolutely stunning. I was like, holy shit, this looks incredible. You know, Sony really does fantastic work, and I think they really knocked it out of the park with this one. Visually, I think this was really fantastic. You know, it's February, so, you know, the colors are a little gray, they're gloomy, they're dim, everything's dead, a lot of snow on the ground, it's cold out. But they still found a way to make the colors and the contrast between the colors of the snow and then what little bit of green grass or just the decorations they had in town for the Groundhog Day, you know, everything really looked really, really good. Just straight down to just the skin tone. Well, not even the skin tones. It's just visually, like the faces, everything. You could see everyone's complexion. I think it was very, very clear. There was still some film grain there, but they wiped away a little bit of it. But I still think it looked really, really good. I think they took away just enough to make it look great, but they didn't take away all of it to make it look like fake waxy. So I think they really found the perfect balance here, and I think visually this is stunning. So this does have Dolby Vision, and you know, there's not too many dark scenes in this where the Dolby Vision works very well at night. It helps with a lot of those dark scenes, but it also helps with a lot of the bright scenes. And again, there's snow on the ground. They're in a blizzard at some point. It's overcast, gloomy, cloudy days. Again, I just think visually, I think they really, really nailed this, and this is definitely a huge upgrade over the previous Blu-ray. As far as audio goes, this does have a Dolby Atmos track. So we got the Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos treatment from Sony. So this is really this is a treat right here. So the Dolby Atmos track, again, it's a rom-com movie. You know, it's well, that's what they label it as. It's a comedy. You know, it's not an action movie, although there is some explosions, and they sound great. You know, the Atmos track really sounds really good. It's just pretty crazy how something like this will get an Atmos track, and then some other movies definitely deserve an Atmos track don't. Not saying this doesn't, because I think every movie should have an Atmos track, or at least if they're going to remaster it into 4K, at least add the Atmos track. But again, I think it sounded great. I think it looked amazing. I think Sony really did a fantastic job here. As far as the Steelbook goes, you know, take it or leave it. I probably would have preferred the slipcover edition over the Steelbook, just because it's kind of plain, kind of bare bones. It's not terrible. You know, they just have the name on the spine, which is interesting. It doesn't even say, I guess not all Steelbooks do that, so yeah, scratch that. But yeah, the Steelbook is not bad, and you also have the 15th anniversary Blu-ray on there, along with the new 4K with Dolby Vision, because I think there was a previous 4K to this that did not have Dolby Vision. So this is a new 4K disc compared to what was previously out there in the slipcover edition. So if you want the Dolby Vision, you have to get the Steelbook. The slipcover edition does not have Dolby Vision. I haven't seen that one. I can't speak on that one, but I can tell you this 4K disc in the Steelbook, amazing. Also, disc art on both discs, very cool. We like that around here. But overall, Sony did it again. Sony really puts in a lot of time and a lot of work and puts out fantastic discs, and this is no exception. But that was my thoughts on the movie. That's what I thought about the disc, and I'm going to hand it back over to John.
Alright guys, before we get out of here today, I want to just give you guys my quick thoughts on this 4K Blu-ray, because I've had this 15-year anniversary edition Blu-ray for a very long time, so I was really happy to upgrade to this 4K, which does include that 15th anniversary edition Blu-ray in the packaging, which I thought was strange. I guess they had a bunch of those lying around still that they weren't able to sell because it's the exact same print on the disc, so I just assumed they had some overstock on the disc, but it doesn't matter. I love this 4K. It's a huge jump from that Blu-ray. I am really happy I grabbed this. I think personally it's definitely worth your money because the Dolby Vision really does enhance the picture. It makes it so much brighter than the Blu-ray. Even scenes in the Blu-ray where I was comparing them myself, some of the early scenes looked like it was like a cloudy day outside, but really it was a sunny day with a little bit of overcast. But the 4K, the Dolby Vision, is really where you finally got to see that. The skin never looked any better. You can actually see every single little bit of blemish and wrinkles on Bill Murray's skin, and there's a lot of them. I thought it looked awesome, this 4K. I was really happy, and it's, you know, for one of my favorite films ever, I'm really glad to finally have a definitive edition of it. The only complaint I have is there is absolutely no new extras. All the extras are the same because they're all in that 15th anniversary Blu-ray. So I could still recommend this. I just would have liked some new extras, but that's a minor complaint.
And another thing that I was thinking about while I was watching this, seeing Bill Murray and Chris Elliott together, I love Osmosis Jones. That's one of my favorite movies. Was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and that doesn't even have a Blu-ray release, which is a real shame because I would love to pick that up and add that to the collection.
Just want to let you guys know we really appreciate all your support here on the channel, and nothing helps us out more than by you liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and then telling all your friends. Have a good one, guys.